The first time I saw a human in combat, I thought I was witnessing a species-wide act of insanity. I am Kral, a member of the Tvax species, known for our advanced intellect and pursuit of knowledge. My mission, assigned by the Galactic Consortium, was to study humanity's unique contributions and peculiarities in warfare, a realm in which they had become oddly renowned despite their minor place in galactic politics. I had heard the rumors of their strange battle tactics and seemingly reckless behavior, but I dismissed these as exaggerations. I was wrong. Our vessel had arrived to observe a border skirmish on the edges of Consortium-controlled space. The human ship, a mid-sized battlecruiser called Resolute, was being harried by a Kalath raiding fleet. The Kalath were a formidable species, tall, with iron-hardened scales and a reputation for brutality. Their technology easily rivaled that of any galactic power, and their weaponry was famed for its lethal efficiency. As I watched from the bridge of our diplomatic vessel, I assumed the humans would surrender. Outnumbered and outgunned, surrender would be the logical choice. But as the Kalath hailed the human ship, I was struck by a bizarre scene. The humans laughed. The sound of it, a sound of mirth in the face of doom, sent a chill down my spines. What followed was unthinkable. The Kalath fired the first volley, sending plasma blasts toward Resolute. The humans returned fire with their own, but their shots seemed to lack precision. I assumed this was a sign of desperation, a last show of bravado before their inevitable defeat. Then the Kalath began closing in for what I expected would be a swift boarding. Instead, the humans initiated something they called boarding countermeasures. Rather than waiting for the Kalath to break through their defenses, they launched assault shuttles directly at the enemy ship. Small, sleek, and manned by what I would later learn were volunteer infantry. Suicide pods, I muttered, unable to fathom what I was seeing. The humans seemed intent on crashing their shuttles directly into the Kalath hull. They fired thrusters at reckless speeds, with no regard for the distance or the danger. I braced myself for a scene of grisly impact, expecting the humans to be obliterated on contact. But, impossibly, they made it. They breached the Kalath ship as I watched in stunned horror. Cameras from Resolute allowed me to observe the initial moments inside. The humans, who were barely half the height of a Kalath, poured out of their shuttle, armed with what looked like archaic weapons. Blades, kinetic projectile weapons, and other close combat tools I thought long obsolete. It was suicidal. Primitive. And then the humans charged. There were no shields, no finesse in their advance, no attempt to avoid the frenzied Kalath, who fought back with claws and plasma-bladed weaponry. Yet the humans fought as if possessed by some madness. They shouted battle cries, roaring in a manner that seemed to make the Kalath hesitate, if only for an instant. And in that instant the humans struck. I watched as they overwhelmed their opponents in groups, using pack tactics that I later learned were inspired by ancient predator behaviors from their homeworld. They seemed to barely feel the wounds inflicted on them, fighting through injuries that would have killed a Tvax, or at least immobilized us. I saw a human, plasma-burned and bleeding, swing a blade with enough force to sever a Kalath limb. In the end, the Kalath retreated, beaten back by the ferocity of their attackers. The humans suffered losses, but none seemed to mourn, not in the way we Tvax understand mourning. They spoke of their fallen comrades with a strange reverence, yet celebrated their victory as though they had not lost anyone at all. For them, it seemed the act of surviving was victory enough. As I recorded my observations, I felt a growing unease. I had studied combatants before, cataloging various species' responses to conflict, but I had never seen anything like this. These humans, small, fragile by galactic standards and outmatched by nearly every measure, had fought as though possessed, as though death were an inconvenience rather than an end. I closed my notes for the day, my thoughts troubled. The humans were different. There was a madness in them, yes, but also a terrifying strength. Perhaps the rumors were true. Perhaps humanity was, in some strange, primal way, the most dangerous warrior species in the galaxy. And that thought sent a chill deeper than any battle could. This chapter sets the tone, portraying humanity's fearlessness and tenacity through Kral's shocked, academic perspective. Let me know if you'd like further development or adjustments. My next observation of humanity came several cycles later, on the blistering desert world of Gorla, a place where even the hardiest Tvax could scarcely survive for more than a few hours. The landscape was unforgiving, with daytime temperatures capable of liquefying most metals and nights that plunged into icy extremes. I watched from the controlled comfort of our research ship, prepared to observe what I assumed would be another quick human retreat. No species surely would willingly remain in such hostile conditions. And yet, when I located the human encampment, I was met with an astonishing sight. The humans were not retreating. Far from it, they had set up makeshift shelters, constructed from scavenged materials and the limited resources they had brought with them. They worked with a gritty determination, their sunburned skin and cracked lips evidence of the suffering they had already endured. Their technology was basic by galactic standards. They didn't seem to carry any atmospheric regulators or advanced cooling devices. Instead, they wrapped their bodies in thin fabric layers, shielding themselves with rudimentary tools that seemed inadequate for the environment's severity. Over the next few days, I observed them adapt with startling speed. Water, a scarce resource on Gorla, was being purified from the brackish pools scattered across the landscape. They filtered it through layers of sand and gravel, a method so primitive it was almost laughable. But it worked. Each drop was collected with reverence, distributed carefully among the group, who drank in small sips, conserving what little they had. By the third day, I noticed a fascinating development. The humans' suffering had not discouraged them. Instead, it seemed to strengthen them. They shared stories around makeshift fires, tales of ancestors who had survived even harsher environments, of explorers who had crossed deserts, frozen wastes, and mountains on their homeworld. Their stories were not mere entertainment. They served as reminders, as fuel for their minds, bolstering their resolve. One evening, I recorded a scene that would haunt me for cycles to come. A human soldier, visibly weakened by the heat and dehydration, stumbled in the sand. Another soldier knelt beside him, pressing a small metal canteen to his lips. When the weakened soldier shook his head, refusing to take from his comrade's limited supply, the other simply laughed, a deep, rough sound, and forced the canteen into his hands. The exchange was simple yet profound. Humanity did not just endure suffering. They shared it, carried it, and even found ways to lift each other up in the harshest conditions. My species would have retreated by now, accepting the limits of our bodies. But humans seemed driven by something more than mere survival instincts. They seemed to defy their limitations, using camaraderie, resilience, and an unyielding will as their armor. In that moment, I began to understand why so many feared them. For humans, survival was not merely a matter of physical endurance. It was a matter of spirit, of an inexplicable drive to defy impossible odds. As I made my notes, a single, terrifying thought crystallized in my mind. It was not just their bodies that were resilient. Their minds too were unbreakable. This chapter highlights the humans' adaptability and resilience, focusing on their unique capacity to endure through mental strength and solidarity. Let me know if there are specific details you'd like to add or adjust. When I observed humanity's tactics in a large-scale battle, I thought I understood warfare. As a TFAX researcher, I'd studied countless species' methods of conflict. Some fought with overwhelming strength, others with precision and speed. But humans fought differently. They turned battle into an art of deception. The humans were outnumbered, facing a coalition of 3 powerful species united by their common enemy. The coalition forces, armed with superior technology and heavy artillery, moved with confidence, their formations tight and disciplined. The human forces, however, seemed chaotic. Their formations appeared irregular, their movements unpredictable. To any observer, it looked as if they were stumbling blindly into the fight. Yet as I watched, I realized this was no accident. It was a carefully orchestrated illusion. Humanity's tactics were filled with feints and baiting maneuvers. Small groups broke off from the main formation, drawing the coalition's attention and luring them into ambushes. Coalition soldiers pursued what they thought were fleeing humans, only to find themselves surrounded and outflanked. The humans had positioned sniper teams in unexpected locations, picking off key targets with frightening precision. Every move was calculated, but not in the rigid, mechanical way typical of most species. Human strategists seemed to anticipate not just where their enemies would be, but how they would react. They turned their opponents' assumptions against them. The coalition forces, known for their pride and predictable adherence to rigid tactics, could not adapt quickly enough. And the psychological warfare was equally disturbing. Humans deployed what they called sound distorters across the battlefield, projecting confusing noises, footsteps, static bursts, whispered voices, into the ranks of the coalition forces. At first, I dismissed it as a strange and pointless tactic. But it soon became clear this was no random trick. It was a form of psychological manipulation. I watched the coalition forces begin to falter, their ranks hesitating, cohesion slipping. In the chaos, some soldiers started to see threats where there were none, firing at shadows and sounds, their nerve fraying as they faced an enemy they couldn't see or predict. The humans, meanwhile, slipped through the confusion with disturbing ease, exploiting each moment of doubt with precision. The final blow came when the humans executed what I later learned was called a feigned retreat. The coalition, thinking victory was within reach, charged forward. But it was a trap. The humans reformed in a half-circle, encircling the coalition and striking with deadly force. Within minutes, the coalition's forces were in full retreat, routed and scattered. By the end of the battle, I felt a cold dread settle over me. The humans had fought with not only physical skill but an unsettling mastery of the mind. They had woven together deception, psychology, and unorthodox strategy into a weapon no other species had mastered. I recorded my observations, noting that the humans had won through means far beyond strength or technology. They had weaponized unpredictability, an art of warfare that turned their enemies' own minds against them. It was then I understood, humanity was terrifying not because they were powerful but because they were clever, and in war cleverness could be more deadly than any weapon. This chapter showcases humanity's strategic ingenuity and psychological warfare tactics, revealing how they turn unpredictability into their greatest weapon. Let me know if there's anything specific you'd like to expand on. After observing humanity in combat and strategy, I felt I understood them better. Yet nothing could have prepared me for the depth of their resolve until I spoke to them directly. After the battle, I received permission to interview a group of human soldiers aboard their vessel. I arrived in the aftermath, expecting to find a group of hardened killers. Instead, I found them in surprisingly high spirits, gathered in a dim, cramped room laughing, exchanging stories, and nursing their injuries like battle scars were badges of honor. I began my interview with a question that had haunted me: why do you fight with such recklessness? One soldier, a wiry human with burn marks on his arms, shrugged as if the answer were obvious. We fight because we have to. Simple as that. We've got family, friends, a whole species to protect. That's reason enough. Another soldier added with a wry smile, and it doesn't hurt that our enemies always underestimate us. They laughed, but the laughter held something deeper, a grim acceptance of their reality. Unlike the Tvaks, who viewed war as a rare, almost taboo necessity, humans saw it as an unfortunate part of existence, a test of will and survival. To them, war was not just about victory, it was about standing together no matter the cost. I noticed one soldier sitting quietly, his arm in a makeshift sling, bloodstains marking his uniform. His silence drew me in, so I asked him, "What gives you the strength to keep fighting even when the odds are against you?" The soldier's eyes met mine, calm but intense. "It's not about strength. It's about not letting down the person next to you." He nodded toward his comrades. "We're not here for glory or honor. We're here because, at the end of the day, we know we can trust each other with our lives." This concept of camaraderie, a bond so strong they would willingly endure pain and hardship just to protect one another, was foreign to me. Tvaks formed alliances, yes, but they were built on logic, on mutual benefit. But these humans? They fought for each other with an unshakable loyalty I had never seen. As the conversation continued, I found myself unsettled. Humans were not fueled by bloodlust or conquest as I had once thought. They were driven by a relentless spirit, a need to protect, to endure. Their willingness to risk death seemed almost casual, yet their loyalty to one another and to those they protected was unwavering. When I left, I realized that what made humanity so terrifying wasn't their strength or cunning. It was their resilience, their unity, and their ability to face death without flinching. They fought not because they enjoyed war but because they had something worth fighting for. In my final report, I recorded humanity as the galaxy's most formidable warrior species. Not for their brutality or power, but for the unbreakable spirit that made them unstoppable. I could only hope the galaxy would never need to learn this truth the hard way. For as long as they fought for each other, I knew there was no force in the universe that could truly defeat them. This chapter captures the essence of humanity's resilience and camaraderie, providing Krala's final insight into why humanity is the galaxy's most feared warrior species. Let me know if you'd like any further details.